With duration, we're beginning to consider how long tasks are going to take to complete. There are two different types of tasks that we need to consider: active and passive. The active tasks are often human doing activities where we have to invest some sort of effort. Paint a wall, dig a hole, write a paper, set up some kit, and so on. And while we often find it easier to identify these types of tasks in the work breakdown structure, there is another type of task, no less important, that it's crucial we also identify: the passive or waiting tasks. These are tasks that normally require no human resource, but need to be in our plans nonetheless. For instance, waiting for paint to dry, waiting for concrete to set, or more likely, something like running simulations or modelling, cultivating cells, waiting for things to go through committee, lead times on deliveries, waiting for feedback. These are tasks that must be in our plan, otherwise our plan's wrong. And it might be fairly obvious, but it's so easy to overlook these waiting activities because we've all been taught to focus on the actions, the doing tasks. Another thing you need to consider is how you schedule the different types of tasks. For an active task that I'm doing, I would typically schedule that during my normal working hours. So let's just say 9 to 5, Monday to Friday. It's scheduled around the amount of effort that the human resource puts into it. So we call them effort-driven tasks. However, if you think about it, many passive tasks are not scheduled using a working calendar. Paint drying takes as long as it takes. It doesn't stop at 5 o'clock and then resume the next morning. It would dry overnight. So by identifying these different types of tasks, we can begin to optimize our schedule. If possible, scheduling passive tasks for typical non-working time. For example, it's why most IT departments will schedule their system backups for midnight on a Sunday. It's automated, so no one needs to be there, and the network isn't as busy, so there'll be less disruption. Or we can potentially schedule active and passive tasks simultaneously. For example, just the other week on one of my training courses, there was a researcher who had been into the lab at 8 AM to check on and feed her cells, then attended my course during the day, then returned to check on them again at 5. She didn't need to be there full time, it was a passive task, so it allowed her to fit more into her schedule. Another reason it can be useful to identify these different types of tasks is that for many effort-driven tasks, increasing the number of resources reduces the duration. For example, if it takes me 8 hours to paint a fence, 2 of us would be able to finish the task more quickly, maybe in 4 hours. This is called crashing, adding more people to speed things up. And this comes back to my project constraints. If my major limitation is the size of my team, it's only me, I can tell you how long something's going to take. But if my constraint is a deadline that's been imposed upon me, I can explain, no problem, but to complete that in time, I'm going to need some extra help on this task to speed things up. You can't have it both ways, but now we're in a position to explain objectively what is actually possible, rather than attempting to do the impossible. And crashing isn't necessarily going to be any more expensive. If you already have people employed within an organisation on roughly the same salary band, then often you could substantially reduce duration without massively impacting upon cost. For example, if it takes me 8 hours to paint the fence, then even though 2 of us could maybe finish it in around 4 hours duration, it still involves 8 hours of total work, just split between 2 of us. And this is called the full-time equivalent, or FTE rate. And this is how most finance departments, particularly within universities, consider resource on a project. It's not initially monetary, but hourly FTE spend that they use to calculate resource budget. Okay, I might need an extra paintbrush, but the cost hasn't been doubled, which is what people intuitively think. Your real problem here is not cost, but whether there are other resources capable of helping out. But that's a resource and skill set issue, not really a cost one. So in summary, make sure you include both active and passive tasks in your work breakdown structure, as it gives us the opportunity to multitask. And if we need to optimize our schedule further, then we can consider crashing to speed things up.